People look at my life now, my hijab, my prayer mat, the peace in my eyes, and they assume I was born into this. They assume I've always known this tranquility. But they don't know about the noise. They don't know that just 3 years ago, I was standing in a penthouse apartment in Seattle, holding a glass of wine, staring at the city lights, and feeling absolutely, terrifyingly hollow. My name is Elena. I was an architect. I designed skyscrapers. I built things that scraped the clouds, monuments to human achievement. I had the career, the money, the respect. But 6 months before the night that changed everything, I lost the only foundation I ever had, my mother. She didn't die peacefully. It was a long, brutal illness that stripped her of her memory and me of my hope. When we lowered her casket into the wet ground, I didn't just bury a body. I buried my compass. I stopped believing in anything. If there was a God, I thought he was cruel. If there was a plan, it was a chaotic mess. For months, I went to work on autopilot. I would sit in meetings discussing steel beams and load-bearing walls, while inside I was collapsing. The silence in my apartment wasn't peaceful. It was a predator. It waited for me to turn off the TV so it could scream at me that I was alone. I tried everything to silence it. I traveled, I dated, I worked 80-hour weeks, but the void just got bigger. One Tuesday evening in November, it was pouring rain, a cold, miserable gray Seattle rain. I decided to walk home from the office, hoping the cold would make me feel something, anything. I took a wrong turn, or maybe it was the only right turn I ever took. I ended up in a neighborhood I didn't know well, shaking from the cold, water soaking through my coat. And then I heard it. It was a sound cutting through the noise of rush hour traffic and the pounding rain. It was a voice, not singing, not talking. It was the Adhan, the call to prayer, echoing from a small, unassuming building on the corner. Allah Akbar. I froze. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know Arabic. But there was a frequency in that voice that hit my chest like a physical wave. It sounded like mourning, but it also sounded like hope. It was a cry that acknowledged the pain of the world but rose above it. I stood there on the sidewalk, getting soaped, until the voice faded. For the first time in 6 months, the noise in my head stopped. Just for a minute. I went home, but the sound haunted me. I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about the tone of that voice. It sounded so certain. I missed certainty. I missed knowing that things would be okay. 2 days later, driven by a curiosity I couldn't explain, I went back. I stood outside that small mosque. I felt ridiculous. I was a modern, secular woman. What was I doing standing outside a prayer hall? An older woman came out. She was wearing a rain poncho over her hijab. She saw me shivering. She didn't ask me what I wanted. She didn't ask me my religion. She just smiled, a smile that reached her eyes, and said, "It is too cold for standing. Come, we have tea." Her name was Fatima. She sat me down in a small office. It smelled of musk and old paper. She poured me tea and just listened. I don't know why, but I told her everything. I told her about my mom. I told her about the anger. I told her that I felt like an orphan in the universe. She didn't try to convert me. She didn't quote theology. She simply reached into her bag and pulled out a small paperback book, an English translation of the Quran. "You are looking for silence," she told me gently. "But true silence is not the absence of noise, Elena. It is the presence of peace. Take this. Read. Just read." I took the book home. I tossed it on my nightstand. I didn't touch it for weeks. I was afraid. I was afraid to hope that there was an answer. Because if I tried this and it failed, I knew I wouldn't survive the disappointment. But one night, the grief came back like a tsunami. It was 3 a.m. I was pacing my floor, crying so hard I couldn't breathe. I felt abandoned. I felt like the universe had chewed me up and spit me out. In a moment of desperation, I grabbed the book. I didn't start at the beginning. I just let it fall open. My eyes landed on a chapter, Surah Ad-Duha, the morning brightness. I started reading, wiping tears off the page. By the morning brightness, it began. And by the night, when it covers with darkness. It felt like it was describing my life, the darkness. Then I read the next line and my heart stopped. Your Lord has not taken leave of you, nor has he detested you. I gasped. I literally gasped aloud in my empty room. Your Lord has not abandoned you. I kept reading, my hands shaking. And the hereafter is better for you than the first life, and your Lord is going to give you, and you will be satisfied. And then the questions that pierced my soul. Did he not find you an orphan and give you refuge? And he found you lost and guided you? I dropped the book on the floor and fell to my knees. Not because I knew how to pray, but because my legs gave out. It was a conversation, a direct, personal conversation. The creator of the heavens wasn't speaking to humanity. He was speaking to me. He was telling me, I saw you when you were lost. I saw you when you felt like an orphan. I haven't left you. I cried for hours, but for the first time since my mother died, they weren't tears of despair. They were tears of relief. I realized that my grief was just love with nowhere to go. And God was saying, give it to me. I can handle it. I read the entire Quran over the next month. I read about mercy. I read about justice. I read about the scientific descriptions of the mountains and the embryos that my architectural mind found impossible to deny. But mostly, I found a God who was close. Closer than my jugular vein. I went back to the mosque on a Friday. The room was full. I found Fatima. When she saw me, she knew. She saw the change in my face. The hardness was gone. I walked to the front. I was terrified, yet I had never been more sure of anything. I sat on the carpet. The imam asked me, Sister, do you believe there is only one God? Yes, I whispered. Do you believe Muhammad is his messenger? Yes. He told me to repeat the Arabic. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. As the words left my mouth, something physically happened to me. It felt like a heavy iron vest that I had been wearing for years was unbuckled and dropped to the floor. I felt light. I felt clean. I started sobbing in front of 200 people. And then the most beautiful thing happened. The women didn't look away. They surged forward. I was engulfed in hugs. I was held by strangers who were suddenly my sisters. I smelled their perfume, I felt their warmth, and I heard them whispering, Allahu Akbar. I wasn't an orphan anymore. I had found the biggest family on earth, and I had found the parent who never dies. That was 2 years ago. People ask me, Elena, wasn't it hard to change your life? To stop drinking? To cover your hair? To pray 5 times a day? I look at them and I smile. They think these are chains. They don't understand that the prayer is the only time I can breathe. They don't understand that when I put my forehead on the ground in sujud, I am higher than I have ever been in any skyscraper. I tell them, I didn't convert because I wanted rules. I converted because I was drowning in the noise of the world. And for the first time, I heard the silence of God. And in that silence, I finally found myself.